Yes, there need to be some improvement, but we'll work on it with the aid of government and the unions. And we encourage them to use the union more because the union want to be involved in every aspect of society. And I thank you so much for having us this morning.
You are so welcome. Here's hoping that you guys will continue to do well to make the service better for all Antiguans and Barbudans and visitors alike.
You're welcome.
Over the past year, the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank strengthened its policies and programs towards preserving the stability of the ECCU financial system and increased technical support to its member governments. To learn about the progress of these initiatives, tune into this station as Governor the Honorable Sir Cato Idvena presents the ECCB's annual report on Wednesday, 27 June at 8 p.m.
Live and in living color, it's Carnival, baby. Carnival 2012. And Golden Eye Calypso Review tent is ready to roll this and every Friday night, 9:30 p.m. at the Palms Restaurant, Brimo Hotel, Fort Road. $20 will get you in. The Calypso stars of Wadaddy will be on display to bring you the spirit of Carnival, starring Shaky, Banana Joe, The Mighty Artist, Oko Slime, Redding, Lyrics Man, Nambalumbu Nambalala, Calypso Tempo, Gully Star, Bike, Sister Virtue, Kimberly, Princess Talia, Kasiba, Calypso Tim, Lord Satellite, King Zakari, Sassy, Scorpion, Stabba, the Radio Calypso Monarch of Barbuda, and The Beer, 3-time Crown Calypso Monarch of Antigua and Barbuda, and many, many more. Music by the Specialist All-Star Band. Golden Eye Calypso Review tent is ready to roll. Visit every Friday night, 9:30 p.m. at the Palms Restaurant, Brimo Hotel, Fort Road. $20 will get you in. Sponsors, Cool and Smooth, KFC So Good, Crystal Supermarket, plus the government of Antigua and Barbuda. I'll see you at Golden Eye Calypso Review tent this and every Friday night.
Title sponsor for Golden Eye Calypso Review, Lime. Lime for living every day.
Summer Infusion. KJ Promotions and NDT presents Summer Infusion. Saturday, July 7th, YMCA Sports Complex. Hosted by Super Diamond and Flavor the Hot Hottie. Tickets are available now for $10 and $15 at the gate. Talent mix up. Appearance by Zebra Club, Vibes Ayatas and Triple R's. Solo dance competition, crew dance competition, singing competition, dance crew clash like hyperlinks, frontside heavy artillery, blazers, soldier bits, uprising, Sunny Deal, and Swag Infinity. Official after party by Team Underachievers at the Yard, sponsored by KFC and The Office. Summer Infusion. Oh, the summer you look so. July 7th, YMCA Sports Complex. Be there.
The following is a message from the Antigua and Barbuda Passport Office. In compliance with the International Civil Aviation Organization's requirement for member states to issue machine-readable passports, holders of Antigua and Barbuda non-machine-readable passports are encouraged to apply for their new machine-readable passports as early as possible. Most countries require travelers to be holders of machine-readable passports in order to facilitate secure and convenient processing at overseas immigration counters.
Come into our office located on the Queen Elizabeth Highway. Opening hours Mondays through Thursdays, 8:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. and Fridays, 8:30 a.m. to 12 p.m.
This message is brought to you by the Antigua and Barbuda Passport Office and the New Media Unit Ministry of Information.
Segment of the ABS Evening News is sponsored by ABI Bank Limited.
Banking shouldn't interrupt your way of life, so ABI Bank Limited has integrated it into your day and put banking in the palm of your hand. Mo Banking allows me to check my account balance, my transaction history, or even transfer money instantly from my savings account to cover checks, all from my cell phone. I can pay my bills on the move, on my terms, in my own time. Mo Banking gives me options. No long lines and plenty of time to do the things I love to do. Mo Banking, banking on Sign up at any ABIP location today.
Good evening and welcome to the ABS Evening News for today, Wednesday, 27th June 2012. I am Alciana Tittle, joined by Amarilla Henry, who's signing for the hearing impaired. We'll now take a look at the headlines. High-ranking officials and operators hold talks on the cash for gold trade, and the AIDS Secretariat launches a regional HIV/AIDS testing initiative. And a little later in our newscast, a special program is launched in the South. We now take a look at the news in detail. Law enforcement and cash for gold stakeholders recently held talks which have been deemed successful. Senator the Honorable Dr. Errol Cott, Minister of National Security and Labor, and several high-ranking members of the Royal Police Force met with business operators of the cash for gold trade to discuss the challenges being posed to law enforcement officials from the operations of this fairly new industry. Larissa Francis tells us more.
Minister Cott, in addressing the group, candidly expressed his concerns regarding the spike in robberies involving items of gold and silver. He indicated that need for a strong working relationship between these businesses and law enforcement officials in the absence of legislation. Cott called for the implementation of a more stringent controls and self-imposed regulations for the better management of the type of business activities, pending the passage of appropriate legislation to regulate the operations. The discussions between the parties were cordial, with the stakeholders promising full cooperation with the police. To this end, it was agreed that a standardized form will be designed and utilized by all persons or entities operating in the cash for gold business. This form will be used when transacting any sale or purchase of gold or silver and will require that detailed information is obtained, including the seller's name and address, as well as the presentation of a photo ID. In cases where receipts exist, persons will be asked to present them as proof of ownership of the item, or in the absence of receipts, credible evidence demonstrating how ownership of the item was derived will be mandatory. It was also agreed that items to be melted will have a waiting period of a minimum of 3 days, as businesses would be required to first photograph the item and have it vetted by police to ensure it has not been reported lost or stolen. The discussions also identified another aspect affecting the industry. Stakeholders pointed out that persons arriving from other countries were going door to door, knocking on homes and offering cash for jewelry. The stakeholders pointed out that this activity has been giving bona fide cash for gold businesses a bad name and is of major concern. Minister Cott says the police will be stepping up their surveillances in an effort to curtail the situation. The Ministry of National Security through the Police and Immigration Department will work with the ONDCP and the Customs Department to identify and bring perpetrators of this illegal activity to justice. Larissa Francis reporting for ABS News.
The Ministry of Health partners with Scotiabank and the Pan-Caribbean Partnership to commemorate Regional HIV/AIDS Testing Day Wednesday as they seek to reduce the number of HIV/AIDS cases in the Caribbean. Sherilyn Beezer has the details.
Acting Country Manager, Scotiabank, Gordon Julian, says Regional Testing Day provides increased confidential opportunities for persons to be tested, whereby 2,300 persons were tested regionally in the first year, and that figure doubled in 2009. Parliamentary Secretary Senator Malika Parker, in expressing pleasure in being associated with this nation-building exercise, expounds on the theme, a healthy lifestyle, getting to zero new infections.
It may not be easy, and many of us may not be willing to make a similar link between the spread of HIV/AIDS and lifestyle choices. It is a hard thing to do. It is a leap for many of us, and it is a leap for a certain category of us. This is where, my friends, the issue of life choices and the notion of responsibility becomes frontal in our discussion. As individuals, we must appreciate that HIV/AIDS depends not only on the individual, but on the collective.
Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Health, Edson Joseph, suggests testing also be done in churches.
I put out an idea and a challenge to Scotiabank to find some religious institution that they can partner with in 2012, where only that the testing will not only be done at Scotiabank, but we'll be breaking down barriers and building new relationships, meaningful relationships, to maximize the best benefits and to lead to greater partnership and greater effectiveness in the whole fight against HIV and AIDS.
He adds that the church is where most persons can be reached who would listen to their priest, pastor, or bishop and be tested. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Rhonda Seeley-Thomas explains the initiatives through which the impact has been reduced on patients and their families who are indirectly affected.
These include, but are not limited to, our program for the prevention of mother-to-child transmission of HIV and AIDS, voluntary counseling and testing services in many of our clinics and institutions, to provision of standard drug kits for managing sexually transmitted infections by the Ministry of Health, engaging the services of our clinical care coordinator, the provision of free antiretroviral medication for persons diagnosed with HIV, and the establishment of a human rights desk and HIV/AIDS secretariat.
Dr. Amina Goodwin Fernandez, Clinical Care Coordinator, explains why it is important for persons to be tested early and regularly.
Persons will be infected with HIV/AIDS and not have any symptoms and have absolutely no idea that they're infected with HIV/AIDS until their immune system has been quite significantly weakened, by which time there are complications which can be almost basically HIV is the virus, human immunodeficiency virus, which infects the body, and there's a latency period between the time of infection and the time of developing AIDS. And that latency period can be for as long as, well, average maybe about 12 years, but it can actually be for as long as 20 years. So you can well imagine that in that, 15 to 20 year period, this infected person is transmitting infection to other persons.
The first case was diagnosed in 1985, and the epidemic is concentrated in the 15 to 49 age group. Sherilyn Visa, ABS News.
Reports and policy recommendations on matters directly impacting Antigua and Barbuda and other participatory states will be among the issues to be discussed when the third meeting of the Council of the Ministers of the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, CDMA, meets in Jamaica Thursday. Minister of Health, Social Transformation, Consumer Affairs and Local Government, the Honorable Wilmot Daniel, will be representing the Twin Islands state at the regional meeting. He is expected to table the country's status report during that session. The details in this report.
Minister Daniel, who is responsible for disaster management, indicates that whilst the Council will receive reports and policy recommendations, central among these are CDMA programming support on disaster risk reduction management to each country and the National Comprehensive Disaster Management CDM policy and framework. The local government minister says the Twin Islands state has just completed, as part of its comprehensive disaster management strategy, a pilot project in St. Mary's South, which deals specifically with community profile and multi-hazard vulnerability intervention options to be included in the government development program. This, he says, should result in a significant reduction in the level of vulnerability to the population in that community. Daniel adds that it will be replicated in all 17 districts over the next few years. This policy will serve as a blueprint for accelerating the CDM policy and framework within each CDMA participating state. During the meeting endorsed of the National Comprehensive Disaster Management CDM policy and legal framework, adaptation guide will be sought. The minister says Antigua and Barbuda's Disaster Management Work Program 2013 to 2015 will reflect these considerations in a phased, prioritized process. Daniel adds that the private sector will be encouraged to follow the government's lead agency, the National Office of Disaster Services NODS, in an approved partnership. The opening ceremony of the council meeting will be held on the evening of June 28 at 7 p.m. Larissa Francis reporting for ABS News.